Welcome. Happy Thursday, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us on our webinar this Thursday afternoon to talk about how to provide high quality care for parents and children. Welcome, everybody. Happy Thursday. We're going to take a couple minutes right now to let everyone settle in. Grab a coffee, tea, water, whatever your drink of choice may be. Welcome, Terry from California. Welcome, everybody. As Lena said, go ahead and post in the chat. Let us know where you're joining from today. Good afternoon, Charlene and Deanna. Thank you for joining us. Hello, everybody. Happy Thursday. Welcome, everybody. If you're just joining us, go ahead and post in the chat there. Let us know where you're joining from. As always, we're just taking a couple minutes right now to hang out, get settled, get to know everyone in the chat before we get started right at 2 o'clock Eastern time. From 4 in the morning in Guam. Wow, thank you so much for getting up and being here with us. Welcome, everybody. From Texas, LA, Chicago. It's always such an amazing group of early childhood professionals on here with us. I am so excited about today's webinar. I've had a sneak peek at the slides and it is absolutely fabulous. Welcome, everybody. I'm so happy to be back here with you this Thursday. I don't know who was at our webinar last Thursday. I wasn't here last week. I was up visiting family up in Dryden, Ontario. I know we have some members of the Hi Mama family in Dryden. I had an absolutely fabulous time, but I'm very happy to be back here with you all on my favorite afternoon of the week. Welcome, everybody. If you are just joining, my name is Maddie. Thank you for being here with us today to learn more about how to provide high quality care for parents and children. We're going to get started in 2 minutes. Toronto, I'm in Toronto as well. Thank you for joining us. North Carolina, Florida. Welcome, everybody. If you're just popping in, we are just hanging out for the next 2 minutes, letting everybody who registered today settle in, find a quiet spot if you can. If you're at your childcare center right now, I know a quiet spot is probably far and few between. Texas, Edmonton, Guelph, welcome. I went to university in Guelph. I love it there. Thank you for joining us. Hello, hi, Melissa. So nice to see you on here. Welcome, welcome, everybody. I am so excited. 1 more minute. We had so many educators register for today's webinar, so I just want to make sure everybody has a minute to join in. But we will get started in about 30 seconds so we can maximize our full hour together. Welcome, Sue from London. Thank you for joining us. I have lots of family in London. I'm always out there. Welcome. I could watch you all share where you're all joining from forever. It's so fun. It's so exciting to see everyone coming together for these webinars. Okay, it is 2 o'clock. I'm going to go ahead and pause our music and we are going to get started. Again, welcome. My name is Maddie, and I am your host of today's webinar. We are learning about how to provide high quality care for parents and children, and I'm so excited. Thank you to you all for being here with us today. Quick reminder, if this is your first webinar with us, we want to let you know that every single live attendee at our webinar is automatically entered for a chance to win a $50 gift card. You can use that for classroom supplies, resources, whatever it may be. We will be announcing the winner of the $50 gift card in our show notes email that we send out after the webinar. So you should be receiving that by early next week. So keep an eye out in your inbox for that email. We will be announcing the winner in the email, and everybody on here is up for a chance to win. So you want to keep an eye out for that. If you are the winner, we will also contact you directly, so you don't have to worry about getting in contact with us. Quick disclaimer, as always, before we do get started, the content that we are sharing today is not personalized legal or financial advice. Okay, so the goal today is for you to learn some really great tips, tricks, and techniques for you to bring into your center, into your classrooms, into your homes. But if you are looking at making any big changes, we do just want to make sure that you're contacting the right people to support you, such as a legal or a financial advisor. We're now going to give a listen to our land acknowledgement.
Hi Mama acknowledges that our main headquarters is situated in Toronto, Ontario, on the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, and the Haudenosaunee and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. Toronto itself is a word that originates from the Mohawk word takaranto, meaning the place in the water where the trees are standing. As participants and guests in today's webinar, we are coming together from many different places around the world. We encourage you to learn about and acknowledge the land from which you participate.
And we are now going to give a listen to our diversity and inclusion statement.
Hi Mama is committed to fostering an inclusive and welcoming environment for our employees, customers, and community. Hi Mama welcomes and celebrates individuals of all backgrounds, orientations, and identities. Our Diversity, Inclusion, and Belonging Committee aims to ensure we provide a safe environment for everyone to thrive while bringing their authentic selves to work. Our mission is to promote an inclusive workspace for all employees through education, discussion, and celebration of our differences. Embracing these differences while coming together with a common purpose is what makes our team extra special.
Okay, and a few housekeeping pieces before we dive in. Reminder, this webinar is being recorded. So if for any reason at all you do have to hop off, we hope you don't, but we know things come up. So if you do have to hop off, it is being recorded, and we will be sending out the recording in that show notes email by early next week. We are also recording with the closed captions enabled. So those will be in the recording for you. Though if you do require the closed captions for this live presentation, please do be sure to hit that CC button on your side of the Zoom so you can utilize those for today's session. Certificate for everybody on here, even if you have to hop off early, for everybody who has joined us today in the live webinar, you will be receiving a certificate of participation. We will be sending those out to you again by early next week. So don't worry if you don't see it today or even in your inbox tomorrow. We are actively working to get them to you as quickly as possible, and it might be as early as that or as late as early next week. And lastly, if you're having any issues at all with your Zoom connection, we certainly hope you don't, but if you do have any issues at all with your Zoom, with your video, with your sound, we do want to make sure you're contacting the right people, and that is the support team over at Zoom. Lena has posted a link for her to contact them in the chat at support.zoom.us. They are there to help you if you need them. And a quick reminder about our brand new Hi Mama Academy. I am so excited. If you have not already heard, at Hi Mama, we've recently launched an all new online professional development platform that is designed to elevate early childhood educators. That is our brand new Hi Mama Academy. It provides educators with convenient, self-paced, and on-demand professional development training. I know how hard it is to find time for professional development, but how important it is. With Hi Mama Academy, it is completely on your schedule. It allows educators to stay up to date with best practices through a wide range of topics and high quality engaging courses. There are so many courses in there, including all of our webinars as well. With Hi Mama Academy, I promise it has never been easier to stay up to date and commit yourself to professional development. Lena has posted a link in the chat for how you can learn more. If you do sign up, you do get your first 7 days free. So go ahead, pop in there, check it out, see if it works for you at absolutely no cost. And finally, your hosts. If you've never met me before, if this is your first webinar with us, I'm so excited you are here. Let us know in the chat if this is your first Hi Mama webinar. Again, my name is Maddie. I am your host of our Hi Mama Helps webinar series. I am also our customer advocacy specialist here at Hi Mama, and I am one of the early childhood educators that we have here on our team. As always, I have my wonderful co-host, Lena, with me today. Lena, how's everything going with you?
Hi everyone. My name is Lena. I am the marketing coordinator here at Hi Mama, and I'll be in the chat to help support with everything today.
Thanks so much, Lena. If you need anything, have any questions, Lena is in the chat with you. And finally, last but absolutely not least, our special guest, Gigi, who is the CEO of Lightbridge Academy. Gigi, welcome. We are so excited to have you here with us today. Welcome, Gigi. How's everything going with you?
So well, I have to say, I am so humbled and privileged to be here. And when I see so many people participating from so many different places, Australia, Jamaica, Barbados, Long Island, California, Texas, it really warms my heart. And I'll tell you, these are the times where it really brings me back to my roots of early childhood education and why I went and hot in the Berkshires. Yes, it is very hot.
Oh, Gigi, we may have lost you for a minute there. Seems like we might be having some technical issues with Gigi for a quick minute. So we will just give Gigi a minute or two to get her connection back up and running. And then we will go ahead and get started with the webinar. While we are waiting for Gigi to pop back on, go ahead and let us know in the chat there if you are new to our Hi Mama Helps webinars, or maybe you're part of our Hi Mama family. Let us know in the chat. We love to see new names, and we love to see familiar names of our Hi Mama family as well. Okay. Gigi, you're back. Oh, good.
Yeah, I don't know at what point you lost me.
Oh, that's okay.
Sorry.
No, don't worry about it. It happens. It's so out of our control. We were chatting about just how beautiful it is to see everyone from all over the world joining us in the webinar today.
Well, I just kept talking and kept talking. So what basically I said is it brings me back to my roots, which is a great lead in for speaking to, and even from Dubai. Wow. Florida, everywhere. So just such a great honor. So I just thank each and every one of you for your participation. I thank you for the contribution that you make every day to early childhood education, and in whatever role that you might play, and whether you just started yesterday or you've been doing this for 50 years, that every smile, every gesture, every positive thought, every connection with the child, every connection with the family, and we're going to talk about those family connections, actually changes the brain in children, and it just makes the world a better place. And I'm convinced that the success of all great people begins with just being a nice person. So we're going to talk about how we can engage. So can I start sharing a little bit?
Absolutely.
All right. So before we go to the slide, I want to talk to you a little bit and share a story with you. So I have been working in early childhood education for over 30 years. And so it's crazy for me to think about that. But I want to take you back to one of my challenging parents. And I don't know if any of you have had a challenging parent, but you can certainly chat into Lena. Don't use the name of the challenging parent, but if you've had a challenging parent that you've had to deal with before, certainly share that, because I have. Doesn't mean I don't love them. It's just sometimes, and I'm a parent myself of 4. So, but I was a director of a center. I'm sure many of you out there are directors of centers. It was a large childcare center with over 200 families and 70 staff members. And it was my dream job come true. I had worked in early childhood education. This was before I was married and had children. And it was such a great and exciting time for me. I had one of those parents that I like to call demanding. And her name was Debbie. So if you're out there and you're Debbie and you happen to be her, please chat in, because I'm getting ready to talk about you. So Debbie was this parent who I called having the big syndrome. So she had super big hair. She had super big high heels that you can hear tapping along the hallways. She had super big jewelry. I just always knew when Debbie was coming along. And she also was a very big advocate for her child, which all parents should be. And she asked me questions like, when are you going to hire that teacher in the toddler classroom? And who's been biting? And can I get an Excel spreadsheet of that? And can we get green beans? And all kinds of crazy things like that. But I met her with, of course, let me see what I can do about that. Let me see what I can do to increase, improve, enhance this relationship, because parent engagement is all about relationship. So no matter how I felt, or no matter what Debbie was saying, what was important to me is that I answered her with enthusiasm, that I really listened to what she was saying. And to the extent that I could, I tried to meet her demands as a parent where she was with her child. So there was one morning, though, where I was a bit tired, a little bit overwhelmed, and I wasn't sure how I was going to interact with Debbie. And I heard her clicking and clacking, and she was headed into my office. And I had an office for the first time. So many of you who work in early childhood education and have started in and still are in wonderful churches or in basements or wherever you might have been, that had been my experience. So this is my very first opportunity to have an office. And in that office, behind my desk, were a bank of closets. So I heard Debbie coming in, knowing that she was getting ready to talk to me and ask me a question. And I thought to myself, am I going to be 100% for Debbie today? And so what I did, I am not suggesting that you ever do, but it is the truth. And I am so glad that I was not terminated for my job for doing this, but I actually hid in my closet. So as I'm in my closet, behind closed doors in the closet, I can hear my associate and Debbie coming in and saying, "Where's Gigi? She was just here a few minutes ago." And I'm in the closet thinking, if they open the door, I'll just turn around and say, "Hey, there's the construction paper that I was looking for." Well, Debbie left, and so did my associate. And I had the opportunity later on to give her a call and see what was on her mind. Well, one of these things happened where her daughter was older and she was getting to graduate. And I don't know if you've ever felt this feeling, but I had this feeling of, wow, the happy dance. She's getting ready to graduate. And I thought, this is great. I'm not going to have to deal with Debbie anymore. But guess what happened? And I bet you can all guess. Debbie ended up getting pregnant and she was going to have another child. Now, about that time, I was promoted to a regional manager and I moved out into another position. But many years later, true story, I have my own children. At one point in my life, I had 4 children, 5 and under. I'm a soccer field in my town. And on the opposing team is Debbie. And Debbie still has the big hair. She looks great. I've got sweats on, big ponytail here, giving my kids donuts for breakfast, and she's all dressed, ready to go. And she starts to come over across the field, and my hands are sweating and I'm getting nervous. And this is the way that I feel when I used to hear her clacking in her high heels in the childcare center. And I think to myself, okay, where am I going to hide? And the only place there is a porta-john. And I think to myself, am I going to go in that porta-john with all of my 4 children? So I say to myself, okay, should I take them in there and tell them, don't touch anything and hold your breath? I don't have time to do that. And Debbie gets to me and she says, hi, how are you? And I say, hi, and I don't say I'm happy to see you, because I'm really not. And I thought for sure she was going to ask me, where's that Excel spreadsheet or something like that. And she didn't. She said to me, I'm so glad I ran into you. I've been thinking about you all these years. And she said to me something that I'll never forget. She said, I was a very demanding parent. And the way that you answered me always, with respect and with professionalism and with care, you made me a better mom. And I want to thank you. And I don't know if any of you have ever had that experience, but Debbie wasn't even my favorite parent. It was difficult for me to talk to her sometimes. And that one time I actually hid in a closet because I was afraid I wouldn't be the person that I needed to be. And so if you don't hear anything else today as we chat, I want you to remember that with a smile on your face and with the best intentions in your heart, whether you're feeling it or not, but you're doing the right thing, that you are affecting people in ways that you don't even know. And for most of us who played school when we were children and grew up to become teachers and then moved into administration, we never really thought about the parent part. But if we truly want to impact children in early childhood education, we have to impact their families. And so today, I'm going to challenge you to think about what it means to not just provide early childhood education for children or childcare for children, but how do we provide early childhood education for families, for parents? How do we provide care for parents and families? So today is a focus on thinking about, what does parent care or family care look like? And so with that, I'm going to ask you to keep in mind that challenging parent that you might have. And we're going to go through a couple of things that I would like to share with you. And the first thing that I'd like to share with you the slideshow. All right. I think everyone can see how to increase family engagement at your center. So I need one person to chat in for me that you can see the PowerPoint and that you can hear me. If one person will do that for me, or a thumbs up from Maddie, I am good to go. All right, excellent. Thank you so much. All right, so as a additional resource, I am an author of several books, and one of those books is Partnering with Families. And that story that I just shared with you about Debbie is actually in that book. And ways to connect with each parent like we connect with each child. Ways to provide continual support in the lives of parents, whether they are going through a great time in their life, whether they are struggling financially, whether they are struggling with relationships, and most importantly, how to create a childcare center and a safe place and a welcoming culture for families and children. Now, that's been especially hard with COVID because families in many areas were not allowed in. Now, in even the most strict areas where we are outside New York and in New York, I'm in New Jersey, we're able to welcome back those families into those rooms. And it's so important because engagement, as I indicated before, begins with relationship. So let's talk a little bit about the roles of families. So I shared with you my challenging parent story. And if we had the benefit with the thousands of people who are on here today and the many, many places that you come from and the many people that you have positively impacted over the years, I bet there will be similar stories to what I just shared with you. So I want you to again remember that even when you're not feeling it, if you're doing it with respect and kindness and professionalism, you will impact people in a positive way. And what I found is that often the feelings follow the actions. So if I do what's right, I'll start to feel that good feeling about knowing that that's the right path to be on. So let's discuss, well, let me share with you something that I think is so very important. And if I were to say to you that there was a child in the infant room who wasn't really learning to pull up well, who wasn't really learning to start moving from piece of furniture to piece of furniture, cruise, and children sometimes do miss those steps towards walking. Or if I was to tell you that there was a child in the preschool classroom who really didn't have that pencil or that fine motor grip for holding anything or putting Legos together or coloring, I probably would never hear you say, oh, don't worry about that child. He's probably not going to learn to write, or don't worry about that child. She's probably not going to learn to walk. You are probably thinking and looking at me right now, being, of course not. We would do anything that we could to help a child be successful. Sometimes that even means moving them from a group of typically developing children to a place where they can get additional services or where we're bringing additional services in. I myself have a child who needs additional services. So it's very easy when we're working with children to never give up, to think, what can we do to get this child excited? What can we do to get them engaged? But when it comes to adults, we very often do not do that. So I want you to make a commitment today that I will not give up on helping a parent, just like I would never give up on helping a child. This doesn't mean you love that parent. It doesn't mean this is the parent who comes running with gift cards and donuts. Maybe this is the parent who's a little disorganized and never brings their things. Maybe this is the parent who's got a little bit of a harsh tone. Maybe this is the parent that's disengaged. It's not about what the parent's doing. There's certain responsibilities, obviously, that the parent needs to take in order for this partnership to work. But if we're never going to give up on helping a child, and we can make that commitment to never giving up on helping a parent, that means we do the right thing even when they don't. So think about that. And for me, when I'm working with difficult people and difficult parents, difficult families, challenging situations, I often try to imagine what they look like as a child, because children are so darn cute. And if there was somebody, an adult, imagine what they might have looked like when they were a child, because we were all a child once. All right, so we're here to those essential roles for parents. So regardless of whether parents really understand early childhood education and they want worksheets because they want their children to learn, and they really don't understand play-based curriculum, they are experts on and advocates for their children. So we need to see every parent as an expert and an advocate. And if we assume that and see that, those who may not have as much education, those who may not be advocates for those children, hopefully we can open their minds and share with them what we know, so that when they're beyond those early childhood education years at 5 or 8, or whatever age that might be, maybe 4 years of age, that they continue to carry with them the things that we shared with them. And that's the influence that you have, is the opportunity to see that parent as an expert on their child. They may not know what to do with that information, and they may come to you. But what we've got to try to do, and I share this in one of my other slides, is we need to seek to understand and not to judge. The other thing that we need from parents is we need them to be evaluators of us. And that's a hard one. That was a hard one for me when I first started my career. I was on my developmentally appropriate soapbox. I hadn't had any children, and you don't need children to have had your own to be a good early childhood provider. But for me, it illuminated my mind in a different way, is that we do need to know, how are they doing? The parents are our customers, our relationship, our engagement, our partnership. And what's important for us to think about is, how are we working with them? And how are we listening to their thoughts? Our best intention may not be how they're receiving it. So are we providing them with opportunities to just give us a quick survey? Are we providing them with opportunities to do an annual survey? If you're within any accreditation process, or an accredited program or in a STARS program, majority of those types of programs will actually require that you do an annual survey so that you can see what is the experience of the family. And then one of the best things that can happen through your consistent loving care, education, and taking very good care of parents and their families is they become promoters of the program. And let me help you understand what the word promoter means. The word promoter is that they're loyal about your program, that they believe in you and what you do, even when they're not happy with you. So a parent might be unhappy because you lost a sippy cup. A parent might be unhappy because there's more pictures of one child than another child, than their child in the classroom. But being a promoter of the program means that despite the fact that they may be dissatisfied with you at a moment or for a day, is that they still believe in you. They're not leaving your program. They're loyal to you. And not only that, they're telling others about how wonderful you are. I bet there are people out there whose schools have been open long enough that there are children of children. So the children who went there, their children are now attending. And there are probably schools out there as well where those children who attended may actually even be working in your programs. And for those of you in early Head Start and Head Start, there may be stories of parents and children who really did get that Head Start from what you're doing. The research shows us that in quality care and education, whether that's in Head Start program or in your program, that it really makes a difference in what they're able to achieve as they get older. And the last one is a really hard one, is that the role of parents in our programs, this engagement, is being an advisor. They're not just experts about their child. They're not just telling us what they think about the services and about their experience in our program. And they're not just promoting us well if they're having a good experience. They're giving us input on our policies. Wow, it would be great if you could be open longer, because nurses work this shift and I would be able to leave my child in one spot if that were the case. I'd like to tell you that I appreciate this curriculum and the group care, but and the group time that the children are spending together, but it's very difficult for my child to sit still. What can we do to help my child participate? And one that I think all of us are hearing internationally, and I know for sure in the United States, and not to what extent internationally, but I have heard from many friends across the world, the staff. And that's finding quality staff. So having enough people to care and provide the experience for the number of children who need care. And also finding the time to train people to be able to do the job that we should be doing, not just for the child, but also for the parent. So think of those roles and think of those parents, regardless of their educational background, regardless of their demographic background, whatever it is, they're experts, evaluators, promoters, and advisors. And I will tell you that in my own experience as a mom and having my children in early childhood education and a childcare center, that when I sat for the first time to do the parent-teacher conference of my daughter, I was appalled at the fact that my own daughter did not know her last name when she was 3 years old. And I'll tell you the story of that in just a second. But what was amazing to me is that when I was sitting in those small chairs with what was at that time a portfolio that was visual pieces of paper to look at, not many of the wonderful e-communication and parent platforms that we have here today, is that I was so nervous about what that teacher was going to say about my child, and so concerned that are the comments the parents are making about my children an indication of their future and success. I didn't know that, but what I did know for sure is what those teachers told me about my children, whether it was a difficult message or whether it was a positive message, the way they said it helped me as a parent to either feel good about myself, to get my child the care they needed, the additional care for my child who has special needs, or to just make me feel okay as a busy, overworked mom. And so here's the story. So they did some things like, what's your first name, what's your last name? And they were saying, you know, it was my daughter Genevieve actually. And they were saying, you know, she did well on this and she did well on this, and this is an emerging skill. And, you know, we can debate assessments and observations, but for right now, let's put that aside and just kind of think about this happening many years ago, because she is 26 years old now today. And I said, well, you know, she doesn't know her name. She knows her name is Genevieve, but as you know, my last name is Schweikert. She didn't say Schweikert, hard name to say, but she said her last name was Booty. And they were like, Booty? Well, I call her Jenny Booty. So she thought her first name was Jenny and her last name was Booty. So that was the answer that she gave. And that's the case for a lot of situations with children. Okay, let's move on and look at one of the most important things in developing a relationship with anyone is just knowing their name. And if you're like me, I'm not very good with names. And I'm especially not good with adult names, but I do remember some children's names from back when I was teaching preschool 30 years ago, and toddlers that I was with 35 years ago, and on and on. So, but I think very often with parents or the families, if we could commit to just call them by name, we would start building a relationship with them and increasing that engagement by simply calling them by name. So if you need to make a list of those parents, those family members who pick up, those people who are engaged in the lives of those children, so that you can call them by name, please do so. If they're names that are culturally unique, and you may not know how to pronounce them well, take the time to not be ashamed to really understand how to pronounce that name well and to call people by name. Because when you say mom, I don't think that's probably your mom that you're talking to. It's probably one of the children's moms or dads or grandparents or sisters or guardians or whoever may make up their wonderful family. So start by making sure that you know the names of every family member that comes through your program. Now, if you're a director and you have a big center, that's a lot of names. But the more you do it and the more you make a commitment to it, the better that you'll feel and the more improved your experience will be and the closer that you will feel to people. All right, so I encouraged you to care for parents. How do we do that? So we've taken lots of classes and we've taken lots of workshops and we're lots of experience on what we do in caring for young children, whether they're infant age or toddler or preschool or pre-K or kindergarten or early elementary, which makes up the entire continuum of early childhood education. And here are the things that work for me when I really want to care for parents. So before I go through this list, which you can clearly see here, I want you to think about the fact that the majority of parents are a little nervous, a little concerned, just like I told you before in that parent-teacher workshop that I had about my daughter, Genevieve. We want to know, do you like my child? Do you think I'm a good parent? Do you think my child is smart? And so as much as you may be thinking that parents don't care, or why do they have children? The majority of parents want to be successful. There are certain circumstances, mental illness and substance abuse, where I don't think parents can be their best. But I do believe in the majority of situations that even when parents are exhibiting behaviors that we may feel are inappropriate towards their children, they may need to be redirected on how they can better do that. But I think that deep inside them, they are trying their best to do the best with what they have. So here's what I try to live up to. Super hard to do. Did this with Debbie and couldn't do it that one day I hid in the closet. So try not to judge them. Try not to figure out what, what's happening in their home life. What, why do they have children? Like I said before, is accept them for where they are and who they are. And know that challenges and struggles of families and being a parent cross all demographic lines, all cultural lines. The things that we see that are great in families and the things that we see that aren't so great in families are happening across the globe. And so what can we do to not judge parents? How can we know and just accept that their personalities are going to be as different as the personalities of their children? There are those children who are slow to warm up, need to hang on the outside for a little bit before they dip their hands in the sensory table. There are those children who are raising their hand to ask a question before we've even asked it. There are those children who wander aimlessly. There are all types of children, and there are all types of parents. And so what we need to think about is, how do I connect with this parent based on that parent's personality? Based on that parent who wants to talk and really get to know me, based on the parent who's a little bit more shy, and I may have to work on developing that relationship. The single greatest thing that you can do to develop a relationship between you and a family is to say great things about their child. And I recognize there are times when you need to have difficult conversations, as I indicated before. But if we, as global early childhood professionals, can't find one good thing to say about every child, that's horrible. And so think about how we can see each child and the beauty and the intelligence and the awesomeness and the perfection of every child, and share those pieces with parents. Because when parents feel confident and good, they're more open to listening to education and the things that we can share that we know specifically about children and how they learn and develop. Give parents the benefit of the doubt. The first time they're leaving that permission slip, or when they don't dress their child in orange on Orange Day, whatever it is, the benefit of the doubt. Sometimes we need to just listen, even when they're angry. We work so hard to create an environment that's home away from home that very often parents, and being parenting is very visceral. Your emotions come out in a way that you could never expect when you're a parent. And I'm not suggesting that you ever let parents yell at you or get too much into your personal space or threaten you. I'm simply saying that if you can usher that parent into a place that's away from children and let that parent simply vent that emotional exhaustion that they have, and knowing that they're being an advocate for their child, that they will slow down, that they'll, in most situations, will calm down. And then you can start to figure out what's the real thing that the two of you need to work on. The next one is helping them more than you really want to help them. We as humans gravitate towards people for all kinds of reasons. We have friends that they're our friends, they're the people we get along with. And at work, there's certain coworkers that we enjoy being with. And the same is about parents. There's certain parents that we can't wait to see them come in, and there are other parents that we don't. Don't be the person who helps people based on what they do for you. Be the person that helps every parent, even when you feel like that mom or dad should have said hello to you and didn't. Say hello to them. And so really help them, because when we help families and when families are engaged, we help children. And make sure that you know and you let them know that we love their kid. Sometimes we don't love their behavior. Sometimes we're concerned about their development. Sometimes we're even concerned about how the parent may be caring for that child. But if you don't love children, this is really not the job for you. And you've got to love them when they're at their worst, because if we can't, who can? All right, so I'm going to quickly run through, and you're going to get a copy of these slides and a recording. So if we go a little bit more quickly here, don't worry about that, because everything will be here for you. But how do we know what those families are thinking? So one of the things we talked about was a parent really making sure that we survey those parents, that we know what they're thinking. And here's some quick ways to know what parents are thinking. Ask them. Stand in the hallway during drop off and pickup and ask parents, how are you doing? What's going on? If you're there physically, people are more likely to tell you what's on their mind. Call families at home or at work. Ask them if it's okay to call at work. Say, first thing you say out of your mouth is, your child is fine. Just wanted to see, how's your experience going? Have a parent rep group where you have a parent from each classroom comes together on some sort of frequent basis to say, we love these things that are happening in the classroom, and here's some things that we see that can improve the experience for everyone. Use a 2-minute survey where you say, tell us one thing we did this week, this month, this year that was great, and tell us one thing we can do even better. Do the annual survey, which I've already talked about. Conduct family-teacher conversations often. We talk about conferences, but what about conversations? What about just getting to know one another? And make sure that you call families after they leave the program. They're more likely in those situations to share with you everything that they think about their experience. Parents still feel, even in the most welcoming and fair early childhood programs, that sometimes if they express their feelings of disappointment or their feelings of wanting improvement, that there will be some sort of retaliation on their child. That can be human nature for people. So don't worry about that. Always ask anyway, but recognize that when families have left your program, they're more likely to share with you. So I want to thank you so much. I am going to turn this back over to Maddie. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to let her share hers.
Gigi, thank you so much. Your storytelling is so engaging. That was fabulous. Thank you so much. We did have some questions come through that I'm so excited to get to with you. But before we do, I'll let you catch your breath for a minute, have a sip of water, and I'm going to go ahead and launch our questions of the day out to the audience. If this is not your first webinar with us, you know that we do a poll every webinar to learn a little bit more about you and what you're currently doing at your center. So first things first, are you a Hi Mama customer? And we want to know how you and your community at your center are currently communicating and collaborating with the families in your center. So based on everything that we just learned with Gigi about improving our parent communication and providing high quality care for families, how are you currently doing that at your center? Is it mainly face-to-face communication? Is it mainly a phone, picking up the phone and sending a text, a WhatsApp, pen and paper, or maybe you use a childcare app such as Hi Mama? And we also want to know, are you interested in learning more about Hi Mama Academy? I highly recommend you do. Again, there is a 7-day free trial. It's absolutely amazing the amount of courses in there that you can do to enhance yourself as an educator. And then the last question there is, we are just curious to know if you submit Hi Mama's webinar certificate. So the one you'll be receiving for today, the certificate of participation, do you submit those to your local licensing agency to count as professional development hours, or do you keep them just for yourself? Curious to know. I'm going to leave that poll up there for you so you can take a few minutes to answer those. And in the meantime, I am going to pull up some of our audience questions so we can dive into those with Gigi. Okay. Are you ready, Gigi?
I am ready.
Okay. 2 questions that came in from the audience are actually pretty similar questions. So I'm going to mesh these together a little bit here.
Okay.
But some of our audience is curious to know if you have parents who don't come in often, they're not very familiar with your center's policies. They're pretty quick to drop off and pick up at the end of the day. How do we encourage that parent involvement from parents that are not very engaged with our center, but we want to hear their voice more?
Yeah, so that's a really tough one. And so I'm hearing you say that the parents aren't even bringing their children in, or am I hearing you say they're bringing them in, but they're just quick to drop off, what I call the drive-through parent?
Yeah, sounding more like the drive-through parent.
Yeah. So I think we have to, one, recognize and manage expectations. And so the first thing we have to make sure is our timing for engagement appropriate? As a working parent, they may have to be to work right away. They may solely be focused on that. Some people are really organized and some people aren't. Their mornings could be crazy hectic. They could be shy people. They could feel like, hey, you guys are doing a great job. I don't need to, engage with you. At the same time, I think that we have to think about when are those times that we could have a conversation with that parent. And I like to do what I call positive parent conversation starters. And that's basically talking to them about their child until I develop a relationship. Now, the other part of that question that I heard was understanding what our policies are. There is a time where you say to a parent, because this is the responsibility of the parent as well, that this is a policy. They've all signed off on it. And in certain states, certain policies must be signed off on and adhered to. And it's important for us to understand what that partnership looks like. In situations like that, I think that it's okay to say to the parent, I've noticed over the last couple of weeks that you have not brought blank for your child. So whether that's a coat or whether that's food or whatever that might be. And so we should be providing that because we don't want the child to not have what they need based on the parent. And I don't mean that we're buying coats for everyone. I mean, for that one parent, you might not bring one. And then we need to sit down and have a conversation with that parent. And we need to say, listen, I don't know if it's that you don't have something available or you forget because you're rushing out every day. How can we help you get more organized? And I think that it's also important to remember that when you have a conversation with parents about policies, some parents will say, oh gosh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Thank you for reminding me, like turning the car off or not being on their cell phone when they're in the center or whatever that might be. And there are other parents who are not really going to be listening, who are going to be kind of, okay, whatever. And you may have to be a little bit more direct. And I choose to have those direct conversations when there's truly something that impedes, impairs, or can compromise the safety of children and anyone who's in the center. And for me, that's cell phones and all kinds of things that we want to be really careful with. And I think the other thing that we need to remember is that we've all been cloistered so much over the last few years that some of us are having a hard time even engaging with one another. We kind of got used to parents not coming in the classroom. And I don't know about you, but that was kind of fun. That for me, running all the centers that we do, the complaints to the home office certainly went down because parents weren't there. But that's not how we raise a child together. And that's not how we do things best for children. So those are a couple suggestions on how we can get greater cooperation.
Thank you so much for those, Gigi.
You're welcome.
And another question, do you have any communication strategies or tips for bringing a challenging conversation to a parent? An example could be, so I'm pulling this example from my own experience when I taught in a toddler classroom, but when a child fell, they really hurt their nose, they had to be sent to the hospital in an ambulance with an educator. And those conversations are hard. So do you have any communication strategies for bringing those challenging conversations up?
So that's such a great question. And the answer to that for me is always speak from your heart and always speak honestly, unless it's something not so nice. So for that particular experience that you just said, I would probably be calling the parent and saying, listen, I'm going to tell you something that's probably going to be upsetting to you, but I want you to understand that your child is okay, but here's what happens and here's where they're going, and so and if that conversation was as a toddler teacher that we had to talk to this parent and let them know their child bit 3 times today, is that this is I always like to just be honest and say, this is a really hard conversation for me to have. I do the same thing with employees or family members or my own kids, is that I love you so much. I care about you so much that I want to let you know this. And just being honest about it. And sometimes even saying, listen, I'm super nervous right now, and I'm probably going to get red-faced in sharing this message with you, but I really need to tell you what I observe, because I know that if you observe this, you would want to know.
Right. Absolutely. And as a leader, so I know there are so many owners of childcare centers and directors on here today who are working hard to bring these values into their work and into their center. So I'm just going to throw one last question at you, but for all those leaders on here, do you have any kind of pieces of advice for how they can trickle these values down to their educators as well? Because at the end of the day, they might not even be the ones who are having conversations with parents as much as the teachers in the classroom are. So if you're having an educator who's maybe also struggling, do you have any advice for how leaders can trickle that down in their center?
Yeah, absolutely. And so one of the best ways to do that is to lead by example. So I know that staffing is really hard right now, but if you're able to bring that teacher in with you when you have that difficult conversation and she can hear what you're saying, it's great to role play with one another. It's great to write down what it is that you want to say. And training is awesome. We need to hear things 7 times before they even start to click with us. So, when we have those staff meetings, let's spend them talking about things like that and helping people to have more fruitful conversations, because they'll be able to use that skill set, not just in early childhood education, but throughout all aspects of their world. So, it's kind of funny. Sometimes we feel like, oh, I don't want to role play, but it's one of the best ways to actually do it, is to just get in there, feel a little uncomfortable, and push through what I call the comfort zone.
Yeah, absolutely. Gigi, thank you so much. And for any leaders on here who are struggling with that, you do also know to have this webinar as a tool in your back pocket to share with your educators as well. But Gigi, that was absolutely fantastic. I hope you've had some time and able to look in the chat a little bit to see all the amazing comments you are getting. We appreciate you so much, all the work you do for children and families. So thank you so much for being here with us today. And we certainly hope to work with you again.
Well, let me just tell everyone that I thank you. This is a joy and a privilege to share my small piece of experience with a huge amount of people who are doing the same thing that I'm doing every day. And just that collaborative group of people across the world trying to make a difference in the lives of children and families is very empowering. So thank you all.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Gigi. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Before we wrap up, for everyone on here, quick reminder, we are sending out the show notes email by early next week. So you will be receiving your certificate of participation in by early next week, as well as the slides and the recording. So you can reference the amazing advice and tips Gigi shared with us today. Keep it as a tool in your back pocket so you can continuously provide high quality care for the families at your center. Next week, same time, same place. I certainly hope to see you all there. Next Thursday, 2:00 Eastern time, we are talking about what educators need to know about emotional intelligence, part 1. This is part 1 of a 3-part series, so you do not want to miss this one. You can register now for this webinar next week. Quick reminder as well, our giveaway. Keep an eye out for that show notes email. You just might be the winner. It might be your name in that email. So keep an eye out. And again, we will contact you if you are the winner. If you have not connected with us yet, please do. We have a circle time for early childhood educators Facebook group. There are hundreds of educators in there who are sharing ideas, tips, tricks, strategies for what they're doing in their classrooms. It's just a fabulous community and networking opportunity. So I do highly recommend you pop in there. And if you are not following us on Instagram, please do, so you can get sneak peeks at what is coming up on our Hi Mama Helps webinars, podcasts we're putting out, resources we're sharing. Go ahead and follow us there as well so you can keep up to date with everything that Hi Mama is doing. And otherwise, thank you so much to all of you for being here today and taking time out of your Thursday afternoons to learn and continuously improve yourself as an early childhood professional. We appreciate all of you, and I hope to see you all next week. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.